Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into GeoTormenta. You know, that wild ride of a movie about controlling the weather.
Oh, yeah, that one.
So if you're into near-future sci-fi, grappling with local power stuff, this is definitely your jam.
Absolutely.
We're going to get into the ethics of basically playing God with the climate, right? And the dangers when, like, one country maybe holds the keys.
And what it suggests about how we might actually handle, or maybe mishandle, a real global crisis.
So maybe set the scene for us. What's the premise?
Okay, so GeoTormenta, it basically throws us into this near future where climate change has just gone completely off the rails. Super extreme weather everywhere.
Yeah, the classic disaster setup.
Exactly. And the world solution is this massive satellite network called Dutch Boy. The idea is it stabilizes the global climate, stops the superstorms.
Sounds pretty good on paper.
It does, but here's the catch, and it's a big one. While it's pitched as this, international collaboration, it's largely a U.S. invention, and critically, it's operated primarily under American authority. So that immediately sets up some, let's say, interesting tensions.
Right, okay. So the U.S. has the weather remote control. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, funny you should ask. So initially, Dutch Boy actually works. It prevents disasters, brings a sort of fragile stability.
It's a brief golden age.
Sort of. But then, predictably perhaps, the system starts failing. And not just little glitches. We're talking catastrophic weather events being caused by the system.
Okay. So it's not just breaking down.
No, it turns out it's deliberate sabotage. And that brings in our hero, Jake Lawson. He's the brilliant but maybe slightly difficult engineer who actually designed Dutch Boy in the first place.
The maverick scientist type.
You got it. He gets sent up to the space station where Dutch Boy is controlled to figure out what's happening. And what he starts uncovering is this plot that could trigger a global, a GeoTormenta. Basically, an everything everywhere all at once weather apocalypse.
Okay, high stakes. So beyond the action plot, what's the film really digging into? You mentioned the ethics.
Yeah, I think that's a core theme, this fundamental human desire to control nature. Dutch Boy is like the ultimate symbol of that ambition.
Right. We broke the climate. Now we'll really fix it by taking total control.
Exactly. And the film forces you to ask, is that wise? When we intervene in these incredibly complex natural systems, are we just inevitably setting ourselves up for unforeseen blowback? Is there a kind of arrogance there?
Yeah. Is it hubris? It feels like it. Dutch Boy is this marvel, this amazing tech achievement. But it's also like exhibit A for how badly things could spiral. And what really strikes me compared to other sci-fi is that the danger isn't some rogue AI taking over.
No, not at all.
It's purely human. It's about political will, ambition, corruption. The threat comes from who has their finger on the button, not the tech itself.
Precisely. Which makes it feel perhaps a bit more uncomfortably plausible in some ways. It grounds the threat.
And you can't help but think about real world stuff, right? Like geoengineering.
Oh, definitely. The parallels are quite strong. I mean, scientists are seriously discussing things like stratospheric aerosol injection or artificial cloud seeding as potential, emergency responses to climate change.
Right. Ways to deliberately tinker with the atmosphere or clouds.
Exactly. And GeoTormenta just takes that concept and runs with it to the absolute extreme. It imagines a world where we have achieved global climate control.
But the ethical headaches haven't gone away.
If anything, they're bigger. Because now you have this incredibly powerful tool, this system of satellites manipulating energy fields to control weather. It's amazing, but also terrifyingly complex and, as the film shows, potentially fragile.
Which brings us right back to that power dynamic. Global governance or the lack thereof.
Yeah, the movie presents this facade of global unity against climate change, which, sounds nice.
Sounds ideal, yeah.
But underneath, the old power structures are very much still there. The U.S. essentially holds the reins of Dutch Boy. So you have this constant push and pull. We need to work together on this global threat.
But one nation has disproportionate control over the solution. How do other countries react to that in the film? Is there pushback?
It's subtle, but it's there. You see the consequences when things go wrong. It's not just America that suffers. Different nations get hit by these engineered disasters. It implicitly critiques this idea of technological imperialism.
Technological imperialism. Okay, explain that a bit.
Well, it's the idea that the nation controlling the essential global technology, in this case, climate control, effectively holds supreme power. It kind of diminishes the sovereignty of other nations, doesn't it?
Yeah, if someone else can literally cause a typhoon in your territory with the flick of a switch.
Exactly. Your borders don't mean much. Yeah. So the film suggests that trying to dominate nature this way, even for security, might just create new kinds of vulnerability, new dependencies on these complex systems that, can be deliberately broken.
And it feels like controlling the climate in the movie becomes this huge metaphor, right?
Absolutely.
It stands in for all sorts of contemporary power struggles. Global surveillance, who controls the internet, strategic dominance, fights over energy, data. Climate control is just the ultimate lever.
It's the new high ground, in a way. The ultimate form of influence and potentially coercion.
And how does the U.S. leadership handle this? The president in the film?
It's interesting. The portrayal shows the president sort of caught in the middle, dealing with domestic politics, internal threats, but also this massive external responsibility and the threat from the failing system itself.
Sounds familiar.
It does reflect real-world challenges, doesn't it? Leaders grappling with technologies that are increasingly global, complex, maybe beyond any single nation's full understanding or control. Who gets to decide? Who's accountable? The film doesn't give easy answers.
So the future GeoTormentus shows us is pretty shaky.
Deeply ambiguous, I'd say. On one hand, you have this incredible scientific leap. Dutch boy can stop disasters. That's huge.
Yeah, the potential upside is massive.
But on the other hand, it's constantly on the verge of total collapse because of human flaws, corruption, power grabs, the weakness of our institutions, maybe. That shiny tech utopia is built on pretty fragile foundations.
It feels like the movie is saying we're at a crossroads.
Very much so. A point of bifurcation, you could call it. Humanity has developed these incredibly powerful tools, but are we actually ready to handle them responsibly?
Do we have the wisdom, the governance structure?
Exactly. Have we thought through the decision-making processes? The film really pushes those questions. And you even see that tension reflected in the characters, like Jake, the hands-on engineer.
Right, the idealist, maybe.
Sort of, versus his brother Max, who's more embedded in the government bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It's like experience versus procedure, idealism versus pragmatism. You probably need both, but they clash.
And just talking about the movie itself for a second, it blends genres too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's not just a disaster movie.
Yeah.
It's got big elements of a political thriller, even a spy movie, with the sabotage plot.
Right, the conspiracies, the chase.
Which keeps it moving, definitely, but also keeps the focus on those themes of power, control, and who to trust when the system designed to save everyone starts trying to kill them. It really exposes the vulnerability of that whole global setup when things go sideways.
So, wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway from this deep dive into GeoTormenta?
I think it's that despite being a big, loud blockbuster, it's tapping into some really fundamental anxieties. Our relationship with nature, our desire to control it, the dangerous dynamics of global power, and ultimately what kind of future we're building with our technology. It functions pretty effectively as a cautionary tale, I think.
Yeah, definitely more than just exploding cities, although there's plenty of that too.
For sure.
Okay, so final thought for everyone listening. Thinking about the kind of power and the potential for disaster shown in GeoTormenta if we were actually building something like Dutch Boy for real. What safeguards, what international rules would you think are absolutely essential? What non-negotiables would we need to prevent that kind of nightmare scenario?
That's the big question, isn't it?